Yeah, no worries, you're good. So welcome, sorry for the delay. Happy that, opening cans and crunching got out of the way, so we're in good shape. My name's George Williams. You are at the link between leadership, culture, and utilization. How many folks struggle with complete utilization of the system? Nobody, right? I mean, that's why you're here. So, all right, let's do a brief introduction. It's going to have to stay brief because, well, we lost about 10 minutes almost. So, my name's George Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called ReliabilityX. A little bit about my background in maintenance. Started as a maintenance technician, ultimately left a company called BMS, Bristol Myers Squibb, responsible for asset management globally for them. Started ReliabilityX in 2019, about 6 months before COVID, so that my wife could say, I told you so. Fortunately, we survived that little dip, and here we are. So I'm a CMRP, CRL. I've got a bunch of predictive maintenance acronyms after my name and all that fun stuff. Master's degree in reliability engineering. Okay, wonderful. That's us. Let's get to the important things. First, let's understand utilization. If we don't have sound utilization, what are some of the struggles you end up with? What are some of the struggles you have now without utilization? It's the interactive part. Incomplete data. And what does that lead to? Good decisions, or I can't make decisions? I can't make decisions, right. What are some of the other issues from a utilization perspective? You're not taking advantage of the functionality that's sitting within EAM, right? Or whatever system you may be utilizing. So without utilization, that data is suspect, your quality is not there, and you may not be taking care of the functionality that exists. That's certainly a challenge. So how do you overcome this? How long have you been struggling with utilization? That's a great answer. Always, everywhere, and would you say every minute? Every company you've been to. So multiple iterations, this has been an issue. Maybe it's following you around. I don't know. So lack of system utilization is often a point of failure for a system. If I can't use the data and I can't make good decisions, then I bought a filing cabinet. You bought a filing cabinet. Unfortunately, some of the easiest things to get dropped off of an implementation from a budgetary perspective is training, right? We're at the end of the road, we're out of money, so you know what, let's just train one person, and you know what, you're responsible for training everybody else. And we're not even gonna worry about whether or not you're good at training people. We're just gonna say, you know the system, good luck with that. Well, that can be a significant challenge, and we don't wanna go there. So let's look at some factors of utilization. In order for a user to adopt the system and utilize it, number one, it's got to be clean and simple, right? It can't make their job harder. And if it's going to make their job any harder, they better get something in return for it. We've got a training and support, of course. If we're not well trained, how do we expect utilization? That's a significant issue. And again, oftentimes the thing that gets dropped off at the end of the project. One of the most important things for me is training beyond the functionality. It's not just enough to express what the clicks are, but why is that important? What are you trying to achieve from a maintenance and reliability perspective that requires you to use closing codes? If there's no link between the clicks and the why, it's really hard for utilization to get set in stone. There has to be a link there between those things. Active feedback and actually taking actions. If you're receiving feedback on things that are clunky and then it takes 10 years for the IT ticket to get closed out, that's negative for the utilization piece. You got to realize that every time they go to use this system, it's an experience, and experiences drive behaviors. Those experiences, when negative, drive negative behaviors. So we want to try to give them positive experiences when they utilize the system. And then we'll talk about leadership and culture. So in order to improve utilization, we want to simplify that UI. We've got to make sure that we limit clicks. Oh, I got a great story about clicks. Oh. Robust training, and we've got to train to understand, not just for the clicks. What does all that have to do with leadership and culture and all those things? Well, we're going to walk through some of that. Let's take a look at what to do is not enough. So teaching employees just whatever the clicks are is really not enough. Like, why do they have to leave a comment? Does anybody have a rule or has ever worked in a place where every work order had to have a comment? What's the value in that? Who is analyzing text? We're trying to do it to create a behavior. But if we don't do anything with it, did we give them a positive experience or a negative experience? And if it was a negative experience, how can we expect them to adopt the system and utilize it more? It's a good intention that ends up with a bad result, or can end up with a bad result. Why do you need to track all my time? What are you tracking my time for? This seems like it's against my privacy. It's not about their time, but who is explaining what it's about? Why do you want all the time in the system? It's the interactive part. So we want to know exactly what work's getting done and how long it took. Why else do you want the time in the system? Scheduling, I want to be able to learn from what happened in the past and get a good idea for estimations. I want to track what was down and how long it was down, sure. Reporting. If I'm accounting for 40% of my labor in the system, how confident am I in any decision the system tells me to do? About 40%. So how can I make recommendations on capital investment? By the way, when your labor accountability is at 40%, it's the data you actually want that's missing. They're putting the time on PMs. They're just not putting in corrective orders or breakdowns when they happen. And that's why you don't have 100% labor accountability. So it's actually the data you want that's missing. So labor accountability, why do we have to do that? Well, I want accurate information. I need accurate costs to my assets. It's not about you as the technical staff. You're not that critical. I care about the assets. What's the other way you can explain this to folks? Let's say you're the maintenance manager. If you're the maintenance manager and you think you need 2 more electricians on staff, and I'm the plant manager, and you come to me and say, I need 2 more electricians, I'm going to say, well, is your backlog going up or down? And are you accounting for all your time in the system? Because if you can't prove it, you don't need it. So it's to their advantage to capture all that stuff in the system, right? And why am I adding closing codes? If they don't understand that you can analyze that data to get better and what you're going to do with it and then witness you actually do it, it's a negative experience. We've got to give them positive experiences if we expect to change behaviors. They're not wrong. If you require a comment on our work orders, what is the value of them saying done? Complete. I know it's complete. The status changed. I don't need the comment. They're not wrong. What if you need to track all my time? Why do they understand why all data is suspect if labor's not accounted for? Why am I using closing codes? What analysis has been done to prove that you actually use the data? They're not wrong. If what you're asking them to do makes their job harder, they are not wrong. You have to be able to give them good experiences and add value to the organization with the data you're asking them to put in the system. So we have to demonstrate that value. The system should be doing 3 major things: accounting for everything that happened, providing the data necessary to make decisions, and streamlining processes. If the things you're asking for are not resulting in that, then we're not making the shop floor's job easier. And if we're not making their job easier, we are failing. We exist to make their job easier. All of the support functions within an organization exist to make the job easier, to streamline efficiency. If you're in a manufacturing plant, anybody know what direct costs versus indirect costs are? All right. Direct costs are what your customer is willing to pay for. The analyst in the office, the customer's not willing to pay for. They're willing to pay for the operator, they're willing to pay for the equipment, they're willing to pay the shipping cost. Everybody else's function is make that happen better. No one's willing to pay for that though. So they're indirect costs. Anyone who's an indirect cost to the business should be making the job easier. So let's take a look at how this works. So if I've got a good culture and good user experiences, but I lack leadership, I am talent reliant. What does that mean? That means I can have an amazing admin that enforces people to use the system right, but when they move on, I'm starting over. How many people have been that admin? Right. So the company is talent reliant. No leadership is supporting and enforcing the necessity of using the system right. It's happening bottom up from an admin who's amazing. And when that admin gets promoted, oh wait, I can't promote them because I can't replace them. If you are irreplaceable, you are unpromotable. Why would I promote you when I can't find someone to do it as well as you do it? So it's not a good place to be. If I have good user experiences and good leadership, but I lack culture, then I have frustration. That means leadership is saying, do it, do it, do it. The system can do it, but the culture is against it. It means they haven't had great experiences. And if I have good culture and leadership and I don't focus on well-trained user experiences, then I have total failure. You can want it all you want. If I don't give them good experiences, they're not going to adopt the system. And this is the place some people find themselves in. We're not giving them good user experiences. So leaders need to set direction, ensure accountability, and have consistent messaging as to why we are putting the system in place, why it exists, why the functionality is important, and what the expectation is of use out of this system. Most folks say, lower my maintenance cost. That's what they want out of the system. I want lower maintenance cost. But do they really want lower maintenance cost when you tell them what it's going to take to get there? I've got to have a clean hierarchy. I need to track every dollar on work orders. That means when you bring in a contractor, that means all the parts, that means all the labor. Everything has to be there if you want me to lower maintenance cost. Because I can't analyze the data without it, because it doesn't exist. Now, in order to get to that point, I have to have good support. I have to have well-trained people. And I have to have a resource to do the analysis. And then I need resources that will go make the system better in order to get the lower cost. Because the fact that the EAM system exists is not a cost savings. There's no ROI for installing the software. You have to use it. We cost justify the system with an ROI, but the ROI requires more than the system's existence, right? It's not enough for it to just be there. So, direction settings about vision, mission, and values. Creating an expectation of what the future looks like. This is part of the leader's role. REM will provide the necessary data for decision making, or we will drive plant reliability through analysis of closing codes. What's the vision for the system? Where are you trying to get to? That's the role of the leader. They have to do that. Accountability, we got to measure behaviors. How many people measure things like schedule compliance? We measure schedule compliance. What about the schedule compliance is an outcome of the right behaviors? Did I appropriately schedule? Do I have accurate materials planned on the job? If I'm not planning all the parts, how can I have an accurate schedule? Someone's going to have to do the back and forth and try to go get parts 3 times. It's hard to get schedule compliance if I don't have an accurate work order. So behaviors associated with it are labor accountability. Are you accounting for all of your time? Are all the parts planned on a work order? Are we driving backlog cleanliness? And what I mean by that is you should know whose phone to ring by the status of the order. It should be very easy to figure out whose phone to dial by the status of the order. Who's accountable for it while it's in this status? If you go into your system today and you look up whatever status you may have that defines work is out in the field being executed, are all of those jobs actively being executed? And we don't have a clean backlog. Use of closing codes and all the feedback sections and feedback actions based on that, all that needs to be driven. From a cultural perspective, we got to educate beyond clicks. We've got to manage change management. We got to coach folks that need to be coached. So let's talk about educating beyond clicks. What are closing codes? Why do I got to document closing codes? Well, because I want to analyze data. So if I want to know which pump in my plant or which coupling manufacturer has the worst mean time between failure, I need closing codes because I need to know I had coupling failures. And then I can look at what parts were used and who's the manufacturer of the coupling on those work orders. And now I can get down to which ones have the worst mean time between failure. But without the closing codes, I don't have that data. It doesn't exist. Precision maintenance. Whew. Why do you have a job plan on a work order when I've been in my trade for 25 years? Well, in some cases, you might need it. There might be tolerances and standards and expectations and torque settings that you require to be done for the work to be done with precision. Where's that stuff documented? Predictive maintenance, lubrication practices around operational losses. The higher level understanding people have of reliability, the higher level understanding of why you want them to do certain things inside EAM. And you've got to bridge that gap. Otherwise, you're just telling them to do something. You're forcing them to do something. Change management. Whew. How many folks had a formal change management plan during their implementations? Outstanding. This is one of the areas that can lead to an unsuccessful implementation. No one likes change. Well, everyone likes change as long as it's somebody else that's changing. But this is really critical from a cultural perspective in how do you evolve people. You're not trying to change culture, you're trying to evolve people. And in order to evolve them, they have to be educated and have good experiences that create behaviors. So we're attempting to evolve the organization into one that uses data to make good decisions. This helps users adopt the system faster, increases awareness, and improves utilization, and typically happens through the change curve. Is everybody familiar with the Kubler-Ross model? All right, well, we're going to go through it one more time because it's really important. Everyone goes through this. And in a significant change, like system change or upgrade, this can be dramatic. I remember, this is a true story, in 2010, we did an upgrade of a system at BMS globally. And our printed work order went from landscape to horizontal or whatever the difference is there. I guess landscape is horizontal. Portrait to landscape. And I get a phone call. Are you George Williams? Yes, sir. I'm the VP of HR in a $17 billion a year company. Are you responsible for blah, blah, blah system? I'm not going to give that away because it wasn't EAM at the time. Yes, sir, I am. Do you know I have people going out on medical leave because the system is different? True story, was in France. So I had to go sit with the VP of HR in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and explain to them why it was necessary for us to change the orientation of the printed work order at the time. Change management. How many folks had people at the shop floor? How many folks went paperless? Did anybody ever go paperless? You have. And what was the adoption like? What was the change management necessary to do that? Especially with, if you went right to a phone device or a really small device, that's a big, big change. Folks are not going to like that, so they're going to go through this change curve. The first one is shock. What do you mean I need to use that device? That's ridiculous. There is no need for it. What's interesting about the change curve is the next section. Look at the next section. Denial is an increased euphoria. Why would denial be an increased euphoria? Does anybody know why denial is a higher peak on the change curve? You have evidence of all the failures the company has gone through before, and you believe this is just another one. You are confident that this is not going to happen. And so it's actually a state of euphoria to be in denial in the Kubler-Ross change model. This happens because you are absolutely sure that if I just wait a couple weeks, this is going away. There's no way this is going to happen. We'll stand our ground. We'll tell them no way. We're going to file a grievance, whatever the issue is. But it's a euphoric experience for people because they firmly believe there is no way you're doing this to me. I'll show you. And so they actually are heightened. Then they find out they're going to have to actually try it. And that creates frustration because it didn't just go away. Now, your role in change management at these two stages are critical to how fast the organization evolves. Here's why. The higher this peak goes, the lower this peak will be. The more sure that they are that they can squash this, the deeper they will dive into depression. So your role in change management is to squelch the denial, is to don't allow them to be euphoric about it. Be emphatic, communicate often, and explain that this is not going to go away. I know what you think. I know that we've gone through things like this before. I assure you this is not one of those. And you minimize the peak a little. Your role in change management is to minimize that peak. Now they go through frustration and down into depression because I don't know how to work this device. I got to hold it this far from my hand. It's not selecting right. Oh my God, the app froze. Like it's annoying.
That's when they retire.
Sometimes. But even for us that are in the front end of the system, the initial I have to use it gets frustrating sometimes. We're not quite sure. The interface is a little bit different. The UI is a little bit different. They moved the button someplace and now I don't know where it is. And so even we go through that, right? The folks that are used to this, so to speak. So the second piece of what we have to do in change management and communication is to reduce the depression. We are trying to flatten the line. And to flatten the line, you eliminate denial, and as quickly as you can, coach people through frustration. If they're frustrated, it's not for no reason. There's a reason behind it. The button got moved. My phone keeps locking up. My tablet device keeps dying in 2 hours. Coach them through how to get the system to work right. It is critical at that point to give them good experiences. Good experiences create behaviors. So once they start dabbling and they start getting coached in how to do it successfully, they gain good experiences which drive behaviors which help you get to a tipping point. Don't underestimate the necessity for this. In essentially all the new functionality that you want to roll out. Have a reason for asking for input of data. Make sure you're doing something with the data so that you're making their job easier in the long term, and explain it. And then coach them through the functionality to eliminate how bad the change curve is. Give them good experiences that create behaviors. If you can lead them, set a vision of what the expectation is. If you can manage change and coach them through it and educate them and give them good experiences, utilization will go up. Now, it may be difficult to get your leadership team to understand all those things. If that's the case, steal the deck, deliver it, ask me to come deliver it. Either way, we're good either way. But try to get folks through that change curve, because that's what's going to make the big difference in utilization. We're going to go.